Alright, over here at hive number 1 for a routine inspection. The one thing different I am going to do this time around, I'm going to remove the division board frame feeder that takes up one frame space and replace it with fully drawn comb from one of the other hives. And the reason I'm doing that is because it is a single deep brood chamber and I'm going to leave it as such. So just to give them, or the queen, as much space to lay eggs, I'm just going to pull that division board feeder out. Other than that, it's just going to be a routine inspection. So again, if this is your first time tuning into the channel, I'd appreciate it if you were to subscribe and ring the bell for future notifications. And if this is an indication of how today's time in the hive is going to go, it should be an interesting one. Because as you can see, I got a whole bunch of bees already buzzing me, and I haven't even done anything yet. So we'll see how this goes. And if you look back at the previous video on Hive 1, the inspection I did, I ended up replacing the previous honey super that was on here with a more developed honey super, just because the one that I had on here, they weren't drawing out the frames at all, and it was new equipment, but I had it out in the bee yard here for a while, so any wax that was coated, oh no, did I do that? Yeah, I did. Any wax that was coated on the frames is probably long gone, so I believe that was one of the leading factors that just kind of caused the bees to not really show much interest in the super. And as you can see, I have some new frames as well. They're a little bit checkerboarded, but it looks like they're spending more time in this super than the previous one, so we'll just see how that goes over the course of the next few weeks. Oh yeah, so this is one of the more drawn frames that I had in this super, and as you can see, in comparison to the previous videos, this is a whole bunch more bees in the super, so maybe that'll work. And then checkerboarding the drawn frames with the new frames, you know, that should get them to work those frames as well. So, given it's swarm season and all, I'm just going to be checking for swarm cells, in addition to checking to see if the hive still has nice frames of brood. If I do find any swarm cells, depending on if they are actually a queen cup, which is a dry cell, it doesn't have an egg in it, or if it's actually a true queen cell, which has an egg, I'll have to find the queen at that point, and if she is still in here, I'll just tear down the swarm cells to prevent them from swarming. So let's go through the frames and see how hive number 1 is doing. So if you can see that or not, all that shiny substance in there, it's nothing but nectar, presumably. And that's an outside frame, which does make sense to assume it's nectar. I haven't fed them in quite some time now, but like I said, now that spring is definitely here, and more so because I'm running this as a single deep brood chamber, I'm going to remove the feeder and give the queen that much more space. And there's a little syrup left in there, actually. It's interesting. I'll just leave that outside the hive anyway. Alright, let's give them a little more smoke. They don't seem to be too happy that I'm here. And maybe angle the camera just down a tad. Alright, so just checking on the overall health of the hive. Oh wow. This is one of the first times I've seen brood this far to the right. It's usually more or so to the left. And since we have brood, it's a good opportunity to look for eggs. There's a lot of pupated larvae right there in the center. And if you can start to look for the smallest pupated larva, that's usually a good time to spot some eggs. It's kind of strange to have very, very small larvae and for it to be that difficult to find eggs. Oh, you don't want to do that. I think we have some eggs right there. It's just very difficult to see. It's possible there's eggs on that frame. The older comb, like I've said before, it does become rather difficult to spot eggs. And that's a very light frame. I remember moving some frames around. My thought was to give the queen plenty of space. As you can see, I mean, it's a very nice new comb, new-ish comb, and eggs would be extremely easy to spot if there were any in that frame, but there doesn't appear to be. So we'll just keep on checking. This frame's got a little more weight to it. It's a nice looking frame with brood. Always looking for the queen at the same time, because if I can cage her, and then if I find any swarm cells, one, I'll know they're queen right, other than just checking for eggs, of course. There's a queen pup right there. So let's see if that has an egg in it or not. It's hard to see sometimes. That's dry. So again, looking for the queen, and I see some nice pupated larvae on this side, so another good opportunity to check for eggs. Let's see if this other flashlight makes any bit of a difference. Works a little better, and yeah, we got eggs. Okay, there's eggs, throughout right there in the center. So, and they look about day old, meaning they're standing straight up. So at this point, really just want to find the queen. If I find any, no kidding, queen cups, or queen cells actually. And there's one right here on the bottom, which is usually where you'll find the swarm cells. Where'd it go? And that's dry as well. Right here. It's dry, meaning it doesn't have any larvae in it. So tear that down. Which is a habit I got out of, tearing down queen cells and all, or queen cups, I guess, since they don't have an egg in them. But I guess it's not the worst thing in the world to do. So far, so good. Seem to be a little more agitated today than usual. Top of this frame, the part facing me, has a decent amount of nectar in it, and then some capped brood, as you can see. This is a nice brood frame as well. Looking down into each cell, you can see very small pupated larvae. I'd imagine there's eggs scattered throughout without looking too closely. It's a nice food frame. Capping some honey where my thumb's at, my right thumb. It's a nice food store, a lot of pollen. And this has some weight to it too, so I'd imagine probably a lot of stored nectar. Yeah, capping that with honey, a lot of pollen. This queen's hard to find, that's for sure. Alright, well, no doubt found enough eggs and didn't find any queen cells, queen cups that have larvae in them to where they started the swarm process. So I'm just going to put everything back, grab a mature frame from another hive, slide that into the first position where the frame feeder was, and give the queen that many more cells, which is about 7,500 on a deep frame, to extend the brood chamber in, since I'm going to keep this as a single deep. And then this frame, if it's the one I'm thinking, I think it's the next one. That's just some weird looking comb there. It looks like drone comb just because it's larger cells, so I'm just going to kind of mess it up a little bit for them. Actually, a lot of it. And see what they do with that in the future. Maybe they'll rebuild it. Cell size. This is the frame I'm thinking. That'd be a nice frame for them to start expanding into the brood chamber. Okay, so that's that. Let me grab a frame from another colony, slide it in here, and then they will be all set. I'll face this side to the outside since it's not fully drawn, but this side, it's about 80-ish% drawn, so that should give them a decent amount of space to build upon and use, of course, to expand the brood chamber. So yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't do this earlier in the year. I guess I just kind of forgot or didn't really think about it as far as removing the feeders go. But I guess it's just one of those things that, you know, if you're not feeding them, why have the feeders in the hive to where it's just wasted space, where that could be one more frame for the queen to lay eggs in. Alright, so there we go. This 10 frame now has 10 actual frames for the brood chamber. Still a medium super. Checkerboarded for the most part. I'd imagine probably 4 or 5 drawn frames, or mostly drawn frames. So there we go. Routine inspection of hive number 1. Found a few queen cups. They did not have any eggs in them, so it looks like they're doing just fine. They're not in the swarm process or initiated the swarm process. So yeah, check in next time. I'll be out here in about another week to go through the hive and see how it's doing. Thanks for watching, everybody.